and it's falling apart in front of everybody's eyes. You don't have to be a rocket surgeon to see that stuff is broke, and it's broke from the inside out, meaning it's finally to a place where people are starting to realize that you don't have to be a genius to see that common sense and the proverbial bullshit meters have been pegged into the red. The conversation has been so polluted that it's not hard to see that there's something broke, there's something wrong. And what we're seeing, in my opinion, and I think you were sharing the same thing, there is this transformative disruption. Right now, we're all dancing around the dumpster fire. We're trying to avoid it. We're trying to avoid getting tossed into it, getting consumed by it, and interfering with our existence of trying to have a peaceful, respectful life of integrity and purpose. That knowledge apocalypse, the unveiling of knowledge, I think is what we're in the process of saying, and it's just the beginning of it. So the truth of the teachings that you were talking about earlier, the simple fundamental of existence, of how we interact with ourselves and with the rest of the carbon-based meat sacks that we engage with, that is going back to its source now. People are starting to realize, and I think that oddly enough, one of the things that was a benefit from this latest herding maneuver in this spam plandemic crap that we went through, it caused people, everybody was told, go to your rooms and we'll let you know when it's okay to come out.
Right.
You'll get a treat when you come out if you're good.
Right.
But it caused something that I think has been missing in the conversation, the internal conversation within each one of us, and that is self-reflection, introspection, self-examination. What is it that I think about, and why do I think about it the way I do? And it goes back to what we've been talking about in the language, the linguistics, the words around how we describe ourselves. The conversation that we have with ourselves is where the change is happening and where it's most needed. And I think it's exactly what you're saying. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. We talked about that the other day. We said, wasn't it something that a little bit of fear could shut the whole world down? The fear of death. From a silent, invisible killer. How masterful was that? That's what I'm saying.
I give him an A+ on pulling that one out.
Yeah, but look what it did to the earth. I mean, whales were happy, elephants were on the beach, porpoises were swimming in the canals of Italy, the sky was blue, birds were singing, everybody was happy. And I was thinking to myself, people say, well, ordinarily we would never be able to do anything like that. Just shut down the world overnight. And I said, well, fear was able to do it. Wouldn't it be something if love could do it? There are some cultures, as a matter of fact, in the world that take time out every week, every month, every year to honor the environment, to take it easy, to not drive their car, to not turn the things, just to slow everything way down and take it easy on mama for a little while. And I'm thinking, what if the first world countries did that, like Russia and China and the United States? We are the ones who are doing most of the problems. And so I said, if we could set the example by saying, look here, because if we don't, mother's going to do it. Because she'll ultimately survive. It's people who will be discharged. And that's a sad situation, because I think it'll be the first time in history that we've ever killed ourselves on the earth with stupidity. You know what I mean? Usually it's an asteroid or some nuclear bomb. It's just not. How did they all die? they got stupid. You know what I mean?
It's ironic that, we've got all of this chatter in the social discourse about this artificial intelligence thing, right?
Right.
And I've got a whole rant that I go on from my technology perspective that, the two words, and going back to the linguistics again, are the wrong words put together for the wrong reasons, which is essentially just, to me, an example of the laziness of geeks in the creative and marketing perspective of how to use words. They build really cool stuff sometimes, but they don't know how to package it. They do a shitty job of packaging. So artificial and intelligence don't go together, because there is nothing artificial about intelligence, number one. But
Kind of like military intelligence.
right, and people are thinking, well, they're hearing all this fear mongering, again, using the most powerful emotion of fear, like they did with this whole virus vaccine nonsense.
Mm.
And they're throwing that now at the technology. And we're getting it with the whole disclosure with the UFOs, the ufology, and what I'm calling ufology that's going on in that space. And there's just, again, a bunch of convoluted chaos in the conversation that, by using words that aren't either, they haven't vetted the words, they haven't thought through, what the hell am I using these words for, and why? What am I trying to communicate? So I think of this next generation of tech, which I think is going to be very important in the evolution that we're going to see. Some of the technologies in sound and light for healing, education, just learning and knowledge, I think, are extremely profound, and they're going to be very useful if the people are allowed to develop them in some kind of self-organizing way, where the integrity of the group of people that have the interest and have the intent to learn and to use this new technology, this new knowledge, in a positive way to help understand, like you were talking about the metrics or the math that you were doing on, well, when you do the math, this doesn't work out. Well, that's a part of that introspection and rethinking of what the hell it is that we're doing, that with the tools that we have, with the knowledge that we have. And why isn't that something that is more prevalent? Why aren't people starting to see the benefits of facts and truth and knowledge? Like you said, truth left the building a long time ago, probably followed Elvis on the way out. But I think we're seeing in this fundamental transformation, as we dance around the dumpster fires, that all of that is required. It's unfortunate, it's messy, but it's needed, because nothing that we are doing, from our language through the institutions and the societal organizations and all of that, can be fixed. It's all broken. It has to be replaced, not repaired. And that rebuilding from the ground up with a fresh, open, authentic, and transparent. You mentioned transparent and transparency. I think that the transparency is the truth frequency.
Mm-hmm.
The more that you can see for what it is, going again, referencing the first principle thinking and what I refer to as the nut of the nugget. When you get down to that nut of that nugget, which is the transparent authenticity of the integrity of whatever it might be, then the reality of the truth and the love and the relationship can be revealed, and it can be exposed, and it can be expressed. And it's that truth and that honesty that, whenever I have conversations with you about this, I get refreshed. I have a sense of being enthusiastic and hope for where we're going. And it's something that I have always appreciated with you. And I think that what you're about to do, going over to Germany and European trip, you're on that mission. That's your purpose, to go make sure that truth, that integrity, that authenticity through being the transparent person that you are, is going to go over there and make a difference.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. One of the main focuses that we take with us is the significance and how critical it is to have ceremonies and rituals and rites of passage in our culture. Because one of the realizations that people sometimes forget, if they even think about it, is that honoring our ancestors. Like I said, you and I are testimonials to a successful lineage of ancestors who avoided the genocide. And you and I, and everyone else here, are the ancestors of the future. So it's kind of like a link in a chain. Now, we are going to be here just for a little while, but we're going to be ancestors for the rest of eternity. So I'm thinking, you better like it. You better be good at it, because you're going to do it for the rest of time. So I'm thinking that's why I believe the people that I have been taught by say that's who we are. We're ancestors in training. That's why we learn all these beautiful, elegant, elaborate kinds of characteristics. Love is the healer. Forgiveness is the medicine. Reverence, respect, dignity, mercy, all these things, because once that we become part of the cosmos again, that's going to be our profile. If it's not, then we're going to be part of the profile of all the horrible things that happen. Black holes, place that can't be, identified with a sweet dream, And so and I've seen, in my experience, I've seen three things that measure people up in that way. One of them, unfortunately, is a close call with death. Can have a significant effect on what we've been talking about, how people think about themselves and how they fit into the picture. Once they think they're just about to die, but they don't, it could change everything. Their value-based decision-making skills take a lot. The other one is plant medicine. I have seen people make a beautiful shift with ayahuasca and peyote and psilocybin and ibogaine and various other plant medicines. The problem that I see is that it can become habit forming, not because of the substance, but because of people's habits. You find something beautiful, you run it to the ground.
You sometimes too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
It's like a glass of water is a beautiful thing, but too much and you drown.
That's right.
And but my favorite one is the one we're talking about, where people just take the initiative, put the pieces together, come up with the idea that love is the main thing, and then stay there. Like old Rumi said, they fall in love, stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Then your decisions will be made from a place of love, and it'll all be sweet. A child-friendly world, where people can be, safe. That's what we want to do. Make the children feel safe, because until you feel vulnerable, healing is pretty far away. You've got to be able to be vulnerable to heal. And so, like I say, over in Europe, this next trip is going to be a diligent attempt to alter the narrative. And so what we do is we have people, we call it a Indaba. Indaba is a sacred conversation about things that really matter. And so when people are heard, beautiful things happen. When people get to say things out loud, and they get seen and they get heard, they can shift, they can alter. But that's respect, see, and that's dignity. A lot of people, when they don't feel heard and they don't feel like they're being respected, wars can break out. from too much disrespect. So it's a beautiful thing. And I think if we really were thinking about the topsoil, about our water, about our children, I don't see how anybody any sane human being could take that information and turn it on us, turn it around. It would have to be that way. Somehow or another, we have to have these sacred conversations. That's why ceremony is so important. Put people in touch with their ancestors. Put them in touch with the fact that you're going to be an ancestor one day. You would think, again, the fact that we all came through a mother, that we all need water, that we're all going to die, that'd be enough motivation to have us all understand we're all on the same ride. And what we need to do is take care of this place and take care of each other. I mean, somehow or another, greed, the money, the hoarding, all those kinds of things, the agriculture came into the picture, and then people started thinking, this is mine, that's yours. But once upon a time, we didn't have those pronouns. We only had us, we, and our. I remember as a little boy, my fellow walked into my grandfather's little hut, and they were talking about something. This man said, Charlie, I know me and you know what's going on, but what about all these others? My grandfather said, there are no others on earth. It's just us. You know what I mean? So if you have the heart to include all people as your family, these are my people. Well, anthropology does that. We just don't buy it. If you look in anthropology, it'll call us the family of man. The family of man. We are a species. And you would think that we would take that to heart and want everybody to be like a sentient being. We would care about people's babies. We'd care about the fact that they were eating. In the villages where I grew up, the most wealthiest person, or the one that was considered the most wealthy, was the one who gave everything away. And the one who had the most power was the one who least wanted it. And so if you find somebody who is humble, who has humility, who's strong, who is dedicated, who has integrity, never lies about anything, who has everybody's best interests at heart, those kind of people don't want to be leaders, but they make the best leaders. And so it comes down to a bumper sticker that says you want to pick people and to be powerful that love people more than power. I think it was Jimi Hendrix that said,
when the love of power is exceeded by the power of love, then there will be peace.
Amen. That's what I'm talking about. So people know this, people see this, but it's the actualization of doing it. What we're contending is that if you want to actually do it, you have to have your conversation be guided by that, so that can happen. It won't happen if we don't talk about it. Right. You know what I mean? We have to talk about it. We have to sing about it. We have to dance about it. That's why ceremonies and rituals and rites of passage are so critical. And a lot of people don't even do them anymore. So, but the more ceremonies you do, you can understand the sacredness and the preciousness of life. Foremost, grandbabies, great grandbabies, not just two-leggeds, all the animals, people are getting on the bandwagon that all animals are sentient beings. There are countries now that are declaring constitutions for other living creatures besides humans, that have, a seat at the table. They have a voice, which didn't happen for a while. And in the United States, I mean, the random conversations you're privy to in this country are ridiculous. You know what I mean? When you think about it, I mean, it's like Mad Magazine. Remember that magazine?
Oh yeah, and I was talking to somebody yesterday. We were musing on about all of the stuff that's going on in the intelligence realms and the agencies and the different intelligence groups around the world, and we likened it to that old cartoon of Spy versus Spy, right? It's like they're all out there trying to out intel and out spy the other, and they're causing, you know, enough of the chaos itself. But one of the things that you mentioned earlier that made me think about this transformative change that we're seeing, and how, from my perspective, I think there's more integrity and authenticity through transparency that's happening in the global populace of humans. And I saw about a year and a half ago, I started calling it, I think what we're going to see is the rise of the pissed off peeps. In other words, people are going to start seeing the truth. The knowledge apocalypse is the unveiling of all of the lies and the crap and the nonsense that's been built up and packed on and shoved in and up all of this conversation and people. And they're starting to see that the majority of it, if not all of it, is complete bullshit. And they're getting pissed off about it. And one of the things that we're seeing as a symptom or an example of that is what's going on with these farmers, going back to the whole, you know, how do we work with a sustainable, resource-laden Gaia mother that provides all of our sustenance and all of the resources we need. Well, now you've got these farmers in all these countries that have just said, we've had enough of you politicians, bureaucrats, and administrative idiots, and now we're going to bring all of the manure that we need and that we create by doing farming, and we're going to pile it up around your place. And we're going to watch you crawl through the crap on your own. So I think there's a rise of the pissed off peeps afoot. People have had enough. They're starting to more and more every day see the lies, and they're seeing through the lies and the bullshit. And they're going, that's it. We've had enough of you guys. We've listened to you. Your credibility is tanked because of the way you've clearly tried to engineer and control people, and it's broken. None of it works anymore. They try to pull it, in my opinion, if they try to pull another pandemic, people are going to go, sorry, you guys blew the last one. We're not going to believe you this time. So I think the self-organizing collective of the individual self-examining conscious humans is what we're seeing that transformation of. And I think it starts with a clarity and a refinement of the conversation, the importance of that transparency in the conversation, and it being as real and as honest and as truthful as it can and needs to be. And I think that's exactly what you're doing, what you're talking about. And I got to tell you, Tom, every time, as I said, I have a conversation with you about this, it fills me with hope, gives me more clarity and energy, and just Godspeed to what you're doing and the way that you're doing it, because I think you are at that nut. You are the nut of the nugget in this.
I am
this in this transformation time that we're in.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate being able to spend time with you and have this conversation, the kind of authentic conversation with integrity that needs to happen. And I applaud you and honor you for that. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for saying so. I appreciate it. Yeah. We're the same thing. It's like we are both in our own way holding up the stream, of the precious life for generations to come. Once upon a time, it was so simple. If it lasts in 7 generations, do it. If it don't last 7 generations, don't do it. You know what I mean? And it was pretty simple. If it's going to hurt anybody, don't do it. You know what I mean? If this ain't gonna hurt anybody, go ahead and do it. You know, that kind of thing.
Right.
But anymore, money has entered the picture, and wealth, or the ideology of wealth, and whatever else. And so we have to break through that. You're right, and so I'm excited about that too. I have hope. I think the Creator is in charge, and I think that's why they call it the Great Mystery, because there really are no answers. There's just this. That's why I think no matter what anybody says or how anybody goes, the best place for all concerned is in kindness, mindful kindness. Like Thich Nhat Hanh talks about it. We've got to do that if we want the future to be here for our grandbabies and our great grandbabies and so forth and so on. I went into a ceremony not long ago, and I could envision in my cellular memory one of my forefathers dodging dinosaur feet to get a drink of water. Apologetic for these people. I try to be understanding, and I think, well, I know how it is, but you really don't need all these things, and you don't realize what harm they're causing. I mean, when you really get into the nuts and bolts of what it takes just to create the supply chain we all depend on, and you look at all these cities where 90% of the people are living on 10% of the land, none of these cities have any resources. We have to feed them. They're like on life support. We send in the food. We have to go in and clean up the mess. We have to take the garbage out for millions and millions of people. And so the only ones that seem to have any hope are the ones living in the woods, who know how to get their own food, who are off the grid. You know what I mean? And they're taking care of it. They're taking care of the land. They're taking care of the land. Land's taking care of them. But pretty soon, that's going to have to be the inevitable outcome of this incredible time we're going through.
And there's two things that I'd like to add to that. One, 100 years ago, we were all preppers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right. Yep.
So the fact that it's come back around is I think kind of an interesting perspective. But I think the fundamental thing that we've been talking about specifically in various aspects of it is the understanding of value. What is that word and how is it used? The mutual exchange of something that people, and just looking at, for example, just the conversation here with you and me, what is the value definitions that we're using to have this conversation? The value of respect, the value of the integrity, being authentic, being real, talking about the actual nuts in the nuggets, right? And I think that a return to what is fundamental and how people define value is really one of the core things that everything is getting filtered through, that is a part of this transformation. People hold on to things like you were talking about wealth, right? Well, that's a definition or a perspective of value that certain people have said, well, that's where my value is. My value metrics and how I measure all of that stuff is based around this thing called currency and coinage and whatever it might be, and as much of the biggest piles as you can get. But at the end of the day, the real value is the one-to-one conversation and relationship, the exchange of value between yourself and those that you are exchanging conversation with. And I think that value, that's the authenticity, that's the transparency being the truth frequency, is what is that value that you're exchanging. And again, the value that I have and that I share with you in these conversations is second to none. It's the kind of stuff
I agree.
It gives me and my heart that wonderful feeling of, oh man, was that really some good value exchange? I enjoyed that very much. I want some more.
That's right. Well, we're living examples of children that play well together with other children.
That's right. And you have to be able to you have to be able to know that you can get out on the playground and you can share.
Yep, that's right.
And
Yeah, and the more integrity you have, the more integrity we develop. Yep, honesty is and and mercy and reverence and respect and dignity and all these things are are critical right now, because we're at that time. It's kind of like the Titanic, you know, when it was like this, and everybody was running around on deck trying to move the deck furniture around.
mm-hmm.
They were in the bar arguing over their bar tab. All the indigenous people were down below. They saw the problem, and then you had to fix it, but nobody wanted to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
And all the people who were promised that the boat wouldn't sink were running around the decks saying it ain't happening. Don't, you know, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes, right?
Right.
And the boat sunk. And that's kind of where we are right now. You know, our supply chain is tilted. We can actually see the damage in the side of the hull. We know the inevitable outcome, but hopefully we'll be able to repair this and continue on our journey before it actually takes its toll. And I think that's what's happening. And I think that there is hope. I think there is somewhere deep inside of us, even if we can't articulate it, a longing, you know, for family, a longing for someone to care, a longing to care for someone. You know, it's deep, and so we have to uncover it. That's what ceremonies and rituals do. They uncover that and make people feel okay. But you know, people get hurt, people say things and do things, and then they go into shells. And we got psychiatrists, you know, all over the place. When people say, well, you know, it's the language. When you can do things like manipulate and deceive and plot and scheme and lie and cheat and steal. But if you have a language where those words don't exist, then you don't go there. It seems like we've created a language perfectly suited for psychotherapy.
It's become mental parasites in a mental prison.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
Well, I know that we're going to follow up with this conversation after your return trip from Europe. I got to tell you, you have serious steel cojones taking this flight on the eclipse next Monday.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be 30,000 feet during the solar eclipse. That's going to be weird.
That I would not want to do that, but I don't think that we're going to. It's interesting. Again, we're talking about the language and all of the hype around that event, which is a celestial astronomical event, astrological event. We've got the whole Mercury in retrograde thing, and we've got a whole bunch of really interesting alignments that haven't happened in apparently centuries. But your trip, you're going over to Germany, you're going to do ceremony, you do some education. I think you're doing some interviews over there as well, right?
Well, yeah, right now I just got the itinerary last night. I'm going to do 2 television interviews. I'm going to participate in a documentary about the Black Forest called Caring for the Forest. I'll do 3 lodges. And then 2 they call them lecture series, but for me, you know, just like this, I don't treat it like a lecture. I treat it like a conversation. It's just a conversation with a couple of hundred people. And so, but it's still a conversation. Everybody who has something to say can by all means say it. And it's going to be at a place called the Bielefeld University in Bielefeld, Germany. It's kind of like an MIT. It's a robotic engineering college. And so that's going to be interesting for me because the conversation is around ethics and morals and value-based decision-making skills and how they might apply to artificial intelligence and robotic engineering. I mean, I don't know what to think about all this. I just think that any way that we can express the criticalness of being kind and mindful and respectful for each other is a good thing.
Mm.
So, yeah, I mean, if we don't do this, I mean, stupid people is bad enough. Stupid robots is it's going to be even worse.
I agree with that, but as you were describing that, I was imagining a Tom Blue Wolf robot, so that they had cloned you, and this robot is just speaking about this ancient wisdom and the authenticity of. And I'm thinking that would take the whole robotic field and turn it on its head. So I think I'm wishing you all the best in that, and really interested in how that turns out. So in closing here, I know that when you get back, we're going to do a follow-up to your trip, talk more about this conversation that we're having now, that between you and I, and then how that conversation we see unfolding, and particularly after your trip and the lectures. And I'm really interested to hear what happens when you get in there.
Me too.
Start injecting some of Tom Blue Wolf into a robot. It might just go on tilt, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking the robot would move up into Quebec, find a cabin somewhere in the wilderness, and retire.
Oh, that's
robots off the grid.
I think that there's a lot of really interesting potential on this whole AI, machine learning, EIO stuff, and it's just going to be a matter of how the collective, the self-organizing collective, it gets engaged in it and is involved in it, so that it has more of the authenticity of real people being involved in its development, its deployment, its use, and all of that. Because it can certainly be, as we've already seen, it's all about the programming. It's all about who programs it. It's all about the language that they use in the program and what they tell it can do and it can't do. And we're seeing all these tech guys having all kinds of catastrophic events, rolling out their pre-programmed, woke, narrowly minded, ideological programming, and it just dumps out more of the same crap. And people are going, "Oh, I'm afraid it's going to take my job." I said, "Well, did you see what it just did? It can't even do its own job." So you might need to just back off the concern and the worry a little bit. I don't think it's going to be the apocalyptic or catastrophic rollout that people are fearful of. But, you know, like we were saying, they're using fear-based linguistics and language to control the way that people see it and think about it. But in reality, I think that technology is going to be very profound, and it's going to be to the benefit. We're going to figure out not only how to use, you know, the natural resources of Gaia and our Mother Earth here, and the solar system and the cosmos, the ether, everything that we inhabit. We're in space. Space is required for us to be in the place that space is in. And we don't, having an understanding and awareness of how open and actually everything that we need, water, air, communication, energy, is in the space and the air that we breathe. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist in the forms that we know it as. And I think that reality is what people are really going to start having an awareness of and an awakening to. So just like being able to understand a more mathematical and logical and common sense way of utilizing the resources that we need in order to inhabit the reality that we're in, we're going to see that same thing happen on the technology side. I think people are going to see it and go, well, you know, we can use this in a really beneficial way. Sound and light medicine and healing, I think, is going to be one of the most profound things that we're going to see. The plant medicines that you mentioned are already starting to make an impact on the way in which health and wellness is actually viewed, because the allopathic model doesn't take into account all of the way that the biology naturally functions.
Right.
So we're seeing that transformation. But all these things give me hope, just like this conversation I'm having with you, my friend.
My grandmother used to say, time was created so everything wouldn't all happen at once. And space was created so it wouldn't all happen to you.
I love it.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, Tom, it's been the usual honor and privilege and pleasure to have this
Likewise,
conversation.
friends. Likewise. I enjoy your company, and we have awesome conversations. It always makes me feel thoughtful and, again, hopeful and encouraged and excited about moving into what we call the future.
It makes me feel good about, like you said, continuing our ancestors in training.
Yes, that's right. We are the ancestors of the future. So we
Thanks
want to
again.
be good ones, right?
Yes. Well, thanks again, my brother. And I look forward
you.
to having the follow-up conversation after your trip. And
Me too.
I'm sure that's going to be just as exciting and very, very interesting. So thank you.
Post eclipse.
Yes.
Enjoy, my friend.
Take care, brother. Talk to you
Thank
soon. Have a
you.
safe trip.
Thank you. Bye for now.